Hello students, today we are going to learn about writing a formal letter. Formal letters are written for official purposes. The recipients of formal letters are often people whom we do not know personally. Formal letters are usually written when applying for jobs, ordering goods, making complaints, inquiries, and requests. Dear students, before we start, I would like to tell you a few important rules when writing a formal letter. Number 1. Use formal language and simple words. The second one, formal expressions for salutations and closing. The third one is arrange the content in a logical sequence. And the last one is be polite and cautious even when you are making a complaint. So remember, when you are writing a formal letter, you have to be polite and use formal language or expressions only. Dear students, this is the structure and the format for formal letter. There are 4 parts of formal letter that you have to remember. We will go through each one of them so it will be easier for you to remember and understand. The first part of formal letter consists of the writer's address, horizontal line, recipient's designation and address, and the last one is the date. Students, do you remember the structure I showed you earlier? The writer's address as well as the recipient's designation and address should be written at the top left-hand side of the letter. The horizontal line should be between the writer's and recipient's address as shown in the diagram below. Not to forget, the date is written at the right-hand side as shown in the diagram. Remember to write the month as a word. Students, let's see what we should do for the next part. The second part of formal letter consists of the salutation and the reference or the reason for writing the letter. Most formal letters will start with "Dear" before the name of the person that you are writing to. For instance, "Dear Mr. Jackson", "Dear Miss Brown", or "Dear Mr. Thomas". If you do not know the name of the person you are writing to, you can use "Dear Sir" or "Madam". Remember to add the comma. Next, skip one line after the salutation and clearly state your reason or the reference for you to write the letter. Remember, first letter for each word should be in capital letter and the sentence are underlined. Next, you also have to remember that there is no full stop after you have written the reference. Look at the diagram below. This is the perfect example. For instance, "Dear Mr. Jackson", comma, and then skip one line, "Poor service at the school canteen". Now, it's time for us to look at the third part of the formal letter, which is the content. But before that, I would like to ask you, do you guys remember the basic structure of an essay? Exactly. The content of the formal letter also have number 1, introduction, number 2, the body, and the third one is the conclusion. In the introductory paragraph, we should clearly state the purpose of writing the letter. For instance, look at the diagram below. On behalf of the customer club, I would like to make a complaint about the poor service provided by the canteen vendor in our school. The body of the content should be written in paragraphs. Each paragraph should consist of relevant information or the main points. Students, it is important to keep the information to the essentials and concentrate on organizing it in a clear and logical sequence. For instance, based on the diagram below, firstly, the food served at the canteen is not covered. The food is contaminated as flies keep coming and hovering around it. This situation also happens at the drinks counter. As a result, many students have complained of stomach ache after consuming the food sold at the canteen. Next, then you can continue to the next point. The last paragraph or the conclusion of a formal letter should state what action you expect the recipient to take, whether to refund, to send information, or you may provide any suggestions to the recipients. For instance, if you are writing a formal letter of complaints, you can write any suggestions to improve or solve the problems in the conclusion. For instance, look at the examples. We have a few suggestions to help solve the problem. The canteen vendor must keep the foods and drinks covered at all times to avoid any risk of illness. The floor must be swept after every break. By doing this, the students would feel more comfortable patronizing the canteen. And then the last one, from this example, you may say, "We hope you will take immediate action regarding this matter. Thank you." So students, this is the third part of formal letter. Again, this part consists of the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. Students, this is the last part of writing a formal letter. Here are a few examples of how you can end the letter. The first one is yours sincerely, yours faithfully. The last one is yours truly. These all are the formal expressions that you can use while writing a formal letter. Next, skip one line to write your handwritten signature and then write your name and your designation. Students, remember to write your full name in capital letters just below your signature and put it in brackets. So, students, you have to remember this is the format of writing the closing or the last part of the formal letter. The closing, your handwritten signature and your name must be written at the left hand side of the letter. Students, this is the full example of formal letter that we have gone through part by part. Look at the example below. The writer's address and the recipient's designation and address are written at the left hand side of the letter, and the horizontal are located in between them. Then look at the date. The words, the months are written in words and are located in the right hand side of the letter. Remember, for the second part, we have the salutations and the reference or the reason for writing the letter. For instance, "Dear Sir, comma, poor service at the school canteen." The first letter of each word are written in capital letter and the sentence are underlined. Then the next part of the letter is the content. The first one is the introduction. For instance, "On behalf of the customer club, I would like to make a complaint about the poor service provided by the canteen vendor in our school. Next is the body, where we clearly state the essential points. For instance, firstly, the food served at the canteen is not covered. The food is contaminated as flies keep coming and hovering around it. These situations also happens at the drinks counter. As a result, many students have complained of stomach ache after consuming the food sold at the canteen. Next, you may provide another point at the second paragraph. After that, we have the conclusion where we may provide any suggestions of what we would want the recipients to take actions. For instance, we have a few suggestions to help solve the problem. The canteen vendor must keep the foods and drinks covered at all times to avoid risk of illness. The floor must be swept after every break. By doing this, the students would feel more comfortable patronizing the canteen. We hope you will take immediate action regarding this matter. Thank you. Then we have the last part where we write the closing, our handwritten signature, and our name. Look at the example. Yours faithfully, then skip one line, your handwritten signature, skip one line, and then write your full name in capital letter and in bracket. Shamril bin Jamaluddin, President of Customer Club, SM Taman Berlian. So, students, this is a good example of writing a formal letter. I hope that you will be able to remember and understand each element while you are writing a letter of complaints or any other types of formal letter. Thank you.